Alright, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Recha HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations to you sincere and hopeful elect Akim, pushing the word of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, in spirit and truth. Okay, shalom to you. Hopeful elect Akim, all right, to Ma'ah Arabayim Arabai a lot, which is to say 144,000, to Sha'aryath, which is to say remnant, Echad Shalayashim, which is to say 1/3, and Bachayarim, which is to say elect, all right. So, that's what we are striving to be a part of. And shalom to those brothers laboring. So, in this lesson, I want to get into pretty much a vision I had last night, probably around a couple hours ago. I had woke up to take a piss in the middle of the night and went back to sleep. And I had a vision of World War III. And before I actually got into the vision of World War III, I was pretty much, it was kind of like I was in Southeast Asia, in the dream or vision, whatever you want to consider it. Before it jumped over into the vision of World War III. But, I was like in what I believe to be like Southeast Asia, somewhere around there. Just walking around. And it was kind of like it had a Western setting, but I knew it wasn't America. And, I was walking around and it was kind of like society had collapsed. You had a lot of, I remember going to just various houses and a lot of houses being, vacant. Like the people who owned the houses or actually lived in the houses weren't currently there. They were wherever the hell they was at, but they weren't able to make it back home. So if, the house was empty, it was fair game. You'd go in there and see what they had, what type of food they had. You had certain people that had in the vision brothers up here, did some construction. We got construction backgrounds, and the brother Tawab, he does remodels. And in the dream, there was a house that had materials that I needed. I was trying to get into the house because I knew the dude wasn't there, but his next door neighbor, he was like pretty much monitoring this dude's house. And so when I tried to get up in there, I'm lying to the dude, talking about I know him and so on and so forth. And I noticed that he had a tile saw, the saw that you use to cut tile. So I'm lying to the Edomite, telling him, I know him from doing construction work and shit. And so I'm getting this. I'm hitting him with points that he can't refute. And then somehow this fool got into the dude's age or whatever, and I didn't know how old this dude was, and that's where he got me. You know what I'm saying? He was like, oh yeah, no, he ain't 30. He's like twice that. He's like 60 something. And I'm like, oh, this nigga got me. All right. And he was about to start, getting crazy, probably trying to shoot me or some shit. I don't know. And then out of nowhere, we smashed his head in. I believe the brother Tawar, he just popped up. And we stumped this dude's head in, man. Like in the words of Apostle Tawar, like the pincher bug he is. We smashed Esau's head in, man. Stumped his head in and just walked off like it was nothing. And went to the next spot, So my dream was like that. And then from there it just transitioned to where I was by myself, and I was walking. Well, actually, I wasn't by myself. I wasn't with Tawab no more. I believe I was with the brother Thabo and my best friend from high school, and we was walking, and it felt like it was a military base, because on a military base you have housing on military bases. So it's kind of like we was like in a housing neighborhood. It was a pretty steep hill. We were walking up. There's people outside. People everywhere, man. I remember seeing like some Asians. Seeing black people out, seeing all kind of, Israelites. I seen everybody was out there. Edomites, people just walking around, just living life like it was a regular day. And we was walking up this pretty steep hill, and then out of nowhere, there was helicopters, there was fighter jets, there was drones, and they was shooting shit. They was letting off flares and all kind of stuff. And it was known that they was trying to kill everything on the ground. Whatever was on the ground was targeted. And the bullets and all that, and the fragments that was coming from these rockets and all that was it was crazy, man, because it was like walking underneath some freshly exploded fireworks, and we was like, man, we got to get the hell out of here, because we wasn't trying to get shot and killed or bomb dropped on us or some shit. But anywhere you went, you was just, when you look up, it was just projectiles coming your way. You got to dodge these projectiles and all that, bullets and rockets, and it was crazy, man. And we had walked up this hill, and then the next thing I know, we ran into the brother Mahar down there in the Inland Empire camp in SoCal. All right, which that brother, I grew up with that brother, in high school. And so we linked up with that brother. We ended up running into that brother, and then there was all these women and children that needed protection. I'm talking about it was heathen women, Asian, like Filipino women, and they like all concerned and like, who gonna take care of us and all, and then I ended up waking up shortly after that. But it was just crazy, man, because the rockets, the fighter jets, the bullets, the drones. They had drones that looked like birds, man. That was coming to kill everything on the soil. And it was known that these were militaries of other nations. It wasn't American militaries. It was known in the dream that this was foreign militaries that was like up today. They they was at their wits' end with America, and everything on American soil had to die. That was a feeling, you know. So it was a very interesting vision. Okay. So let me read this here in Joel 2. And I'm gonna read this here in verse 28. All right, because that's a prophecy that, you know, that we're gonna receive these visions. Okay, so this is Joel 2 and 28. It says, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions." All right, so, you know, I believe through the Spirit that definitely was a vision, because that vision, it felt real, man. I still remember faces, man. I still remember, you know, a lot of times when I'll be having dreams, you know, I might not remember necessarily like certain details of people's faces, but in that dream, I remember vividly what certain people look like, you know. It says, verse 29, "And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit." All right, so another point to, you know, having these dreams and visions is the Lord showing that, one, prophecy is coming to pass, and two, to remain vigilant. All right, to remain steadfast and firm in the doctrine, because we are almost out of here, man. We are almost, you know, with the way these other nations is treating the Trump cabinet. All right, JD Vance getting no love over there in the Middle East, you know, or wherever the hell he was at amongst those Arab nations. They didn't show him no love. They didn't even dap him up, because these nations realize they're at their wits' end of trying to negotiate and come to any terms of peace with America. All right, and hey, vigilant too. I'm driving to work, and it's 2:53 in the morning, man. People swerving on the road. All right, driving fast, driving about 80 miles an hour, swerving into other people's lanes and shit. Dude almost hit me, man. You know, which is, like I said, you gotta remain vigilant, not just, you know, pertaining to prophecy, but just when you leave the house, man. That's why Apostle Racha always says, man, you gotta leave, before you leave the house, you gotta pray. All right, before you leave your house, you gotta pray, man, because there's all kind of demons, especially on this road, man. All right, people drunk, coming from wherever the hell they coming from. You got people, they ain't even been home yet. You know, they did all kind of whatever they did yesterday. You know, it's almost 3 in the morning, and now they drunk as hell, high as hell, trying to get back home. You know, yeah, so it's dangerous out here. But anyways, the way these nations is treating America, it shows you that they're at their wits' end with trying to negotiate or be diplomatic with America, man. Which means that war is the only result. All right, it's the final straw, pretty much. Okay, so with that, the Lord is giving certain, you know, brothers, you know, Israelites, visions and dreams to signify that we are very close to our deliverance, Abarazazah. All right, and so this here is Ezekiel 38, verse 10. It says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it shall come to pass that at that time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought." All right, this pertaining to Russia. All right, because this chapter is going into Gog and Magog. All right, Gog from Magog, which today are the so-called Russians. All right, so there's gonna come an evil thought into, you know, we believe Vladimir Putin. We believe he's gonna be, you know, in charge when this goes down, when World War III go down. All right, if he's still alive as the president of Russia, you know. But ultimately, the Lord is gonna put it in whoever's in charge of Russia. He's gonna put it in their mind to do the unthinkable. Okay. It says, "And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages," aka Babylon the Great. Okay, the land of unwalled villages. "I will go to them that are at rest," because despite the rest of the world catching hell, all right, you got Venezuela that just got hit with those 2 earthquakes, you know, 7-point-somethings. You know, you got the situation taking place in the Middle East, war in Ukraine, all right, tensions all over the place. But here in Babylon, people are complacent, man. People are at rest. People, you know, can't wait for 4th of July coming up in another week or so. You know, people is wondering what they're gonna do for their birthday. All right. So people here in Babylon are at rest. They thinking about what cruise they want to go on. You know, hot girl summer. You know, things that just don't matter. Things that other people don't have the liberty of being concerned with, because their you know, living conditions is jacked up. The state of their economies, their state of, you know, their country is not a time of rest and peace and safety and mirth and joy. It's a state of war. It's a state of survival. And that's what these people in America is going to be hit with as a dose of reality, and it's going to hit them hard and fast to where they ain't going to know what happened. You know, and in that vision, that's exactly what happened. You know, just chilling, was walking up the street, and the next thing you know, it just started raining down bullets, fucking rockets, drones popping up out of nowhere, fighter jets flying hella close, and everybody freaked out. Everybody concerned and scared, you know, ducking, running for cover. All right. So it says, "I will go up to the land of unwalled villages," which is America. "I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, and having neither bars nor gates." Okay? All of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates. Okay? Because America is not a walled village. You know, you had Donald Trump, his first term, trying to build that wall, and you had wind that was blowing that shit over. Okay, so from the borders of south of Babylon, okay, the border of Mexico and America, the border of Canada and America, there's no walls there, man. You know, you got people. You had an Indian company, or not company, an Indian couple, husband and wife, and they two kids, I want to say. They were East Indian, but they were in Canada and they were trying to get to America. So they actually had a mule that they paid take them to some part of the Canadian border to where they'll be able to walk over into America, and they would be in somewhere in like one of the Dakota, I think North Dakota or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So once they cross the border, they'd be in North Dakota, if I'm not mistaken. And it was in the wintertime, and these dumbass East Indians, they were not properly dressed. All they had was, you know, shoes and a fucking jeans and a jacket, and the whole family ended up freezing to death trying to get to America. But the point being that they were able to do that. They got so far. If it was summertime, they would have most likely reached their destination. But being that it was in the wintertime, they ass froze to death. But the point being, they were able to do that because Babylon is a land of unwalled villages. Okay? So, when these nations decide to pretty much invade America, whether they do it by way of the East Coast, the West Coast, all right, the border of Canada and America, or the border of Mexico and America, they're going to be successful because all those areas, you know, all that square inch of area or miles of area can't be properly governed at one time. All right, and ultimately it's prophecy that, you know, Russia and its allies ultimately is going to be successful, you know, against invading this place. All right, we're reading it. Verse 12. All right, so this is the point of them doing invading this place. It says to take a spoil and to take a prey and to turn to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited. All right, because at one point America wasn't inhabited. This used to be a paradise of gold and wild animals, you know, before the Northern Kingdom came here. All right, it says, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. So you got all the nations. America is a melting pot. You got all these nations that have gathered here in Babylon, all right, to form this you know, modern day Tower of Babel. Okay, this heathenistic rulership. Okay, they all dwell here in America. You got Arabs here. You got East Indians. Shit, Mundami, the president, not president, excuse me, the mayor of New York City is a damn dothead. Okay, that shows you prophecy to be true, the scriptures to be true. Okay, you got certain heathen, East Indians, Arabs in damn positions of authority here in America, man. All right, which at one point in time, you'd have been crazy to think that a damn East Indian would be leading New York City. All right, but that just goes to show that you got all these various nations here in America. All right, that's dwelling here. That's they've gotten cattle. All right, Elam got all the damn 7-Elevens. You know, you even got halal markets. You know, a certain markets you go to that got supposedly halal food. You know, halal beef, where they do they demonic ass alhamdulillah over the meat before they fucking kill it, you know. All right, so verse 13, it says Sheba and Dedan, all right, going into those Middle Eastern Arab nations, okay, and the merchants of Tarshish, all right, Turkey, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Because all these nations that's here is going to be ultimately here when, you know, Russia destroys this place. All right, all the nations that don't, the individuals of these nations, 444 on this vehicle, so all these nations that you know, these heathens, should I say, that don't decide to get up out of Dodge when it goes down, they're gonna be left here to die the death of a Babylonian, all right, by way of thermonuclear destruction. Okay, it says, "Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey?" Because Russia ain't gonna be alone; it's gonna have its allies to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil. All right, which according to I want to say that's Zephaniah 1, you know, these nations ain't gonna, or should I say, Russia's not gonna be content with, you know, a bribe. They're not gonna be content with silver and gold, currency, crypto, whatever that America might try to use to get its way out of this ass kicking. Okay. Matter of fact, let me grab that and I'll wrap it up. All right, these nations ain't gonna take that gold and silver and what have you for you know, to compensate or to pretty much, you know, alleviate the anger they have for this place. Okay, so this is Zephaniah 1:18. It says, "Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of Yahweh's wrath." So the wrath that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is coming with, you know, silver and gold is not going to be able to appease that wrath. Okay? All this wealth that, you know, the Trump administration is making, you know, even if they decided to give all that away to Iran, to Russia, China, what have you, you know, and tell them, you know, hey, yeah, don't use nukes, don't, you know, we're sorry. That's not gonna suffice, man, because that's not prophecy. All right, it says, "But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land." So all the damn idiots that dwell here in America, all the heathen, all the Edomites, all the Shana Shalayashim, which is to say 2/3, that are here on the soils of America, when the ICBM missiles get shot off, they gonna die here, man. Okay? So when Russia decides to push that button along with these other nations, and we can't forget, the beast shall hate the whore, even America's own ally, is going to turn on this place. All right. So when these nations come to the conclusion of there's nothing more we can do, and they decide to push those buttons and let those missiles fly, that's all she wrote. All right. So I just want to go into that. And we close, man. We close. So Lord willing, this was an edifying lesson. Until next time I say shalom.